All right, let's dive into a story that feels like it was ripped straight from a movie script. We're talking about a massive bank heist that went down in Vijayawada.
So let me just ask you this. How would you steal more than 5 crore rupees from a bank? Seriously, think about it. Whatever you're imagining, it's probably wrong. The real answer is so much smarter and, honestly, a lot scarier.
See, this wasn't your typical heist. There was no gun, no threats, no dramatic getaway car. The people behind this, well, they didn't need any of that stuff.
They used something way more powerful, something every single bank is built on: trust. This whole entire scheme was built on betraying that trust, turning an insider's credibility into the ultimate skeleton key.
And the result? A whopping 5 crore rupees. Just gone, siphoned right out of a major private bank. And get this, it wasn't a one-and-done job. This happened slowly, meticulously, over years.
So the big question is, how on earth did they do it? Let's break down the anatomy of this fraud. This wasn't some fancy digital hack. It was an incredibly bold, almost old-school con, and it all centered around something we see as totally secure: gold.
The weapon of choice here was something called spurious gold. Now, this stuff isn't real gold at all, not even close. It's basically worthless metal, like brass or copper, that's been given a thin gold coating to look like the real deal. To you or me, it would look totally genuine.
And the plan itself was just deceptively simple. Step 1, the conspirators would bring this fake gold into the bank and try to get a loan against it. Then, and this is the absolute key to the whole thing, an insider would certify that this junk metal was actually pure high-quality gold. And just like that, with that fake piece of paper, the bank would approve a very, very real loan. They were literally handing over cash for trash.
Now, a scheme this bold, it needs a ringleader, right? Someone on the inside who knows the system inside and out. So, who was pulling the strings?
Okay, so in any bank that gives out gold loans, the appraiser is the most important person in the room. They are the gatekeeper. Their whole job is to test the gold and say, yep, this is real, and here's what it's worth. Their signature is everything. The entire system, the whole process, it all rests on their integrity.
And this is where the betrayal cuts deep. The alleged mastermind was the bank's own official appraiser, a man named Manapali Rama Rao. And it wasn't a one-man show. The authorities believe he ran this whole operation with his wife, Ravathi, and his son, Naga Venkata Satyanarayana. They basically turned fraud into the family business.
But the family wasn't even the whole story. This number is just wild. It's believed that a total of 34 people were involved. 34! They were likely the customers, bringing in the fake gold, all part of this huge, elaborate web of deceit.
For years, this thing ran like a perfectly oiled machine. But every scheme, no matter how clever, has a weak spot. So how did this multi-crore, multi-year fraud finally get exposed?
The whole thing allegedly kicked off way back in 2021. For more than 2 years, it just kept going, completely under the radar, loan after loan stacking up against fake gold. And then, bam, February 2024, it all came crashing down.
What's really incredible is how they found out. It wasn't some dramatic whistleblower or a last-minute confession. No, this entire 5 crore rupee house of cards was brought down by the most boring thing imaginable: a routine internal audit. A standard check, the kind of thing banks do all the time, finally flagged the giant hole in their books.
So, the fraud is out in the open. Now the story shifts to the fallout, to justice, and what happens after such a massive breach of trust.
So here's the situation as it stands today. The Andhra Pradesh Crime Investigation Department, the CID, they've taken over the case. They've filed charges of cheating, obviously, and criminal breach of trust. That second one is so important, because it's not just about stealing money, it's about abusing a position of power to do it. But here's the twist. The key suspects, the appraiser and his family, are nowhere to be found. They're on the run.
And the story might not be over yet. The big question investigators are asking now is, was the appraiser really acting alone inside the bank, or were other officials in on it? The search for those answers is still going on.
At the end of the day, this case wasn't just about fake gold and real cash. It was about trust being used as a weapon. It exposed a huge vulnerability in the system, and it really leaves us with one heck of a question. In a world where trust is the ultimate currency, who's in charge of making sure it's actually worth something?